27 years ago, there was this thing of consulting, Bichlal. I know today, half Klal Yisrael is consulting, the other half.
Do you believe Hashem runs the world? Yes. Do you believe He will provide for you? Yes. So why are you so worried about paying your bill?
And why are you working overtime?
Correct. The answer is because you don't feel it right now.
So you just bashed the idea that a businessman must have a smartphone. It's a myth.
Human beings are not designed to multitask.
In the meantime, the Yingerman is going to cover the topics we don't learn in yeshiva. The Yingerman is a new magazine.
Correct.
Started when?
Right now we're up to 40 issues. I think it started July 1st.
So you're very
2024.
invested? How invested are you in this?
Very.
So this was your idea?
No.
Or whose idea was this?
Moshe Yitzchuk.
And he came to you with this idea?
He is my client for one of his other companies.
Okay.
And he mentioned to me this idea. And
It's another magazine.
correct. But
We have, how many magazines do we have
A
in the
lot.
Hampshire?
But his thinking was very simple. He said like this: there's a lot of magazines. Now, there are paid magazines, which is content focused. And those is things that you buy in the store. You know, each one has their own thing. Some is more Heimish, less Heimish, English, Yiddish. Then you have a lot of the woman magazine, which...
For example,
you
Bina?
have- No.
Which one?
The free ones, the ads. The one
Oh,
with the ads.
the View and
Correct.
the Weekly
The
Link
the
and the
Community
Torah
Connections,
Times.
the Torah Times, the Balbusta. These things are
It's
focused.
ads.
It's ads and it's focused for women.
Right,
Most of them have started to put in an article here and there already as well.
right.
His thinking was that there's nothing for Ingalat.
Focused on Ingelat.
Yeah. You're a Hamish Yingerman,
Right.
you're getting married, you're starting out in life. You need clothing, you want to start a business, you need services, you need a mortgage. There's all kinds of things that you need.
Okay.
There's very little information available for people what's working, what's not working. And there's very little in the sense of bringing together all the advertisements. So right now, before the Yingerman, let's say, if somebody wants to advertise, they have two options. One option is to go to the magazines, which is either paid magazines that only a small amount of people are purchasing,
Right.
okay? Or it is a woman magazine where you don't belong there,
Right.
okay? And a lot of Ingalat are not reading the woman magazine because it's not
You
for them.
mamish call them officially woman magazine. The ones that are given out of the corners
Yeah, the View is
meant for women.
meant for women.
Aha.
Because the thinking always was that women do the shopping.
Right.
So women need to know which clothing stores are going on sale now, so
Right.
you can buy for your kids the clothing that you want to buy anyway, but you can't afford to buy them in season. You want to buy them right before the season when the sale starts. So all these things
This
is
has been
important.
like this for a long time.
Correct, forever.
And he
But we
felt that
missed-
the
yeah.
Ingelat don't have anything.
Correct. It's something that very few people were thinking and focusing on, but it was always a need that existed. Okay.
So it's just ads?
No, so his thinking was, let's combine the content that Yingalat need
For
to
example.
succeed in life.
For example.
We have articles on budgeting.
Okay.
First time in the Heimische market. It's
Very important.
extremely successful column. I personally know a lot of people who have changed their lives because of it. They stopped using credit cards. They started budgeting.
Budgeting is critical.
It is.
It's
becoming more and more. There's more and more awareness about it in the Heimische market.
I would believe it's one of the things that in yeshiva, like age 17, 18, it's critical.
Correct.
People fall into choives al lot for no reason.
So let's put on the side if yeshivas should teach this stuff or not, because
Okay.
that is a chinuch discussion,
Okay.
and there are arguments on both sides, and I do not have an opinion about it.
In the meantime, the Yingerman is going to cover the topics we don't learn in
So
yeshiva.
our focus is forget about yeshiva. You left yeshiva, you got married,
You need to know this.
you have bills to pay, you have a family to feed. You got to make decisions in life.
Yeah.
One of the very painful things in the Heimische market is that you see people make mistakes that are really stupid mistakes, but they have no way of knowing how stupid it is.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you a simple example. I'm dealing right now with a guy who decided to launch a business, a software business in AI. He's 23 years old, left Koilel a year ago. He has a good head. He got into the software world. He jumped in and started developing a software. Okay. He took out a home equity on his house, over $100,000 on credit cards. Okay. The whole family on both sides, his father's family and his wife's family, are all in debt for his business.
Really?
Yeah. Now, there's a few things wrong here. Okay. One thing is you never take an equity, home
He's
equity.
risking everything.
Correct. You'd never take a home equity on your house to launch a startup business, number one. Launching a business on credit cards, we can debate that, but a lot of people will say it's a no-no. Okay. The guy has zero experience launching a business, zero experience in software. Okay. And
Why would he choose that if he has zero experience?
Because he did put himself into it. So he did watch all kinds of things that gave him the experience that he needs. So he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing, but he does not know that a startup like this has an 80% chance of failing in the first 5 years. He cannot afford to fail. Okay. Now, what did he do wrong? He simply did not know that he should go and discuss it with the person who has done it before, which in the Hampshire market is available.
Wow.
Either you pay for a consultant, okay? Somebody comes to me for 1 hour, okay? Whatever my fee is, irrelevant. 1 hour. I will tell you a basic idea of what it takes to launch a business and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And I do it every week. Now, why doesn't everybody do it? Because they don't know that there is such a thing. They don't know that it's important. Now, even forget about a consultant. Just go ask somebody that ever launched something and sit down with them. They're usually over the age of 40. They have a lot of experience, and tell them, I want to do ABC. And they're going to ask you, how much does it cost? If you tell them $30,000, they will tell you, no, it does not. It's a minimum of 300. Are you aware of that?
Wow.
If you tell them it costs 300, they will say, okay, where are you taking it? You tell them equity, they will tell you, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, the Yingerman idea was to bring all the content, but then not charge for it, for the magazine, make it a free magazine, and then have a lot of ads, which again is very important for the Hamish Yingerman to know what's out there, and also to give an opportunity. There's thousands of guys going out every day to look for making a living. Yeah, they're getting married. They need to make panusa. In the Hamish market to live today, you need, let's say with 3, 4, 5 kids, you need $150,000 plus at a minimum.
Easy.
Okay. A lot of people become entrepreneurial and they start businesses. Now they need customers. So they want to talk to other Yingermans and advertise. They only have 2 options. Okay. Like I said, they can advertise in the daily paper sometimes, but daily papers are not made to launch businesses. The daily paper is when you have something very small, specific, an apartment, this, that. It's not made to launch businesses. Correct. Or you can go to the woman magazines,
which is not going to get you a lot.
Correct.
Wow. So this is a good niche.
Correct.
Mitzat shiny, it's a big risk.
It's a huge risk. And initially I told them, I know too much about the industry since I was the consultant for a lot of the big newspapers today. And I know a lot about it. It's very risky, but he is very persistent. He wants something. He has a very clear plan for it, and he's very confident that it will work.
Wow. So 1 second, you started mentioning budgeting. What else do we have over there?
We have a lot of columns. We have a column about Shulam Bayis, how to build very good relationships on
That's very blunt.
What?
That's very blunt.
It is.
And the VAD, is there a VAD that checks this?
That's a good question. It's a good question. When we started the business, going back to, he was pushing me to do it, and I was telling him it's a very challenging business. It takes a lot to pull it off. And he was insisting on it. So one day I said, you know what? I'll do a business plan, exactly like an 18-month financial plan, a forecast. How much money do we need? What resources do we need to pull this off? If you still want to do it after I give you the plan, we will do it. And I gave him the plan, and he said, let's do it.
He has guts.
He does. He has a lot of confidence in his ability. And he's a big believer in Siyata Deshmaya that, like we discussed before, I do my part and Hashem will do the rest. Being afraid is not healthy and doesn't get you anywhere. Let's do what we need to do while still using the maximum hishtadlus and logic.
Yeah.
Okay. So since I did publish a book in the past, I did publish columns in magazines, and so I did know a lot about it. I took the role of being the consultant as well as the editor-in-chief until it establishes itself as a business. So we did a plan. We tried to look for everything, okay? The one thing that we didn't think of is hashgucha.
Meaning you didn't think that it needs hashgucha?
Yeah, I did not know that it's something that is part of launching something like this.
But you're involved in magazines. You knew that there is such a thing.
Most magazines do not have an hashgucha. The only magazines that have an hashgucha is let's say in Monroe, for example. If you want to sell something in Monroe, the hashgucha needs to approve that it's kosher enough to be sold. But it's also not an hashgucha. It's just that they approve. And there are certain magazines that they don't let you sell in Monroe because they don't approve of it.
Okay.
But there is no official hashgucha.
Official hashgucha means they need to go over the content.
Correct, but even then, they would still not give a real hashgucha.
Uh-huh.
There is no hashgucha right now, official hashgucha for it, for any magazine.
Okay, so what changed?
So what changed is that I was not aware of the fact that in order to sell in Monroe, you have to have an actual hashgucha. So we were getting ready to launch. We went to print Thursday night, and we were supposed to come out Motzei Shabbos. And Thursday night, somebody told us that, in Monroe, you have to notify the authorities that you're coming out and you're going to sell it in Monroe. So we told them, and they said, it doesn't work like that. We have to look at it. We have to approve it. It takes 2 weeks. So again, Moshe Gottlieb was like, no, we're going to make it work. And he did all the shtadlers that he could, not taking no for an answer. There was an emergency...
With that 24 hours.
Correct, 48 hours. There was an emergency meeting, Motzei Shabbos.
From the Monroe Chevre.
1 o'clock, 1 a.m.
And everything was already on the truck.
The whole board, the magazine was already published in all locations except for Monroe. We gave it to them on Friday to read, and they told us that we could come out for this 1 week, but then we need to figure out a very good way of going forward. Now, so we did go live, Baruch Hashem, and this hashgucha part, I'm mentioning the hashgucha part for 2 reasons. One reason is that in a startup, there's no matter how much you plan, there's always going to be surprises, which are going to be very, very difficult. And every person that goes in to launch any business has to know that, and he has to be able to deal. He has to be ready and committed to deal with all the struggles. A lot of people look at a startup as something very simple. I have a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and a good idea. Let's just do something on the side. Okay?
Those are the 80% that fail.
Correct. When you go into something, you should know it's going to cost you double than you think it will. It will take double the time, and there will be a lot of days when you would want to give up.
Wow.
Now, let's take...
That's a lot of chizuk for itself, what you just said there.
Okay. But the idea is that most businesses that fail, I would say that I've watched hundreds of businesses over the last 20 years. It's not because the idea was a bad idea. The idea is actually a good idea. It's just that the person didn't do the proper hishtadlus to succeed. Now, officially, if you look at the research, you'll see the number one reasons why business fail is lack of cash flow. You have to be realistic and brutally honest with money.
Okay.
You need a good team. Okay. The Yingerman has an amazing team of people. You need a proper team. You can't launch a business by yourself. There's always other people involved.
How much before the going live do you prepare? Do you actually...
In our case, the Yingerman, 6 weeks.
So
it should take 6 months, but like I said,
in 6 weeks they already launched.
From idea to launching was 6 weeks.
Wow. I want to say Azecha men sherif min a guten meshugene.
Correct.
And you can't translate this into English. The
But
other
the world,
thing
everything successful in the world, okay, if you look at it, if you
needs
think
a
about
good
it,
meshugene.
needs a good machine. The normal people, okay, normal is one of the options on the wash machine. You have fast and slow and normal. Normal people don't do much because they're always busy trying to be normal. They want on their matzaiva to say he lies the person who was normal.
Wow,
They want people to come to the funeral, say, you know what, this guy,
it was
he
normal.
was normal. He was okay. He fit in.
This is a lot of chizuk for me, just this. This thing about 6 weeks live, meaning that right now you're 6 weeks ahead?
No.
You're not printing 6 weeks ahead.
No,
It was just the
wish.
6
I
weeks.
wish. 6 weeks to put together the team,
Right.
find a printer, find a designer,
Wow.
figure out distribution.
That's
We distributed the first week to over 100 locations. Wow. So you're talking about a massive operation.
I want to go 2 ways. One of the ways is you mentioned that there is a bunch of people that do not have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is one of the ways that people find out about businesses in the Hampshire community. You said there's a big number of Ingelat that don't have access to that.
Correct. There's a huge in the Hampshire market. There's a big group of people, 20,000 plus.
Wow.
Okay, people who do not have access to social media or to smartphones, and they're not looking.
Computers?
They do have computers. Most of them do work on computers, but the computers are filtered to the point where they only have access to what they need to. And some of them are running very big businesses. They're very successful business people.
With flip phones.
Correct.
So you just bashed the idea that a businessman must have a smartphone. It's a myth.
It's definitely, at this point, I think everybody agrees that it's a myth. It's just some people feel that they have a hard time getting off it.
Why is it so hard?
I remember when the movement against smartphones started. At that point, most people felt that it's over. Smartphones is part of life. Everybody's going to run their business on smartphone. There's no way technically to operate without it. Right now, I would say 10 years later, it has been proven, like everything else in Klal Yisrael, that we're stronger than anything out there, and we will survive. Okay, if you look at the history of Klal Yisrael, the tree has been shaken so many times with so many different things, from Askula to everything after the war, and technology is one of them. But we're so determined and we're so connected to the source, the truth of Hashem, that we will always come back and say, what is the honest truth? Is it okay or is it not okay? So Rav Wosner put down 3 rules. Okay, you don't.
Rav Wosner, wow.
Yeah, he put down 3 rules that he gave out to Klal Yisrael from his bezen.
Rav Wosner had confidence.
He did. He was a Talmud from Shapira.
Wow.
He grew up in an environment where a yeshiva was a yeshiva.
He has weight.
Has weight, has a respect. Yeah. Rav Wosner has a Talmud now, Moshe Klein, who is doing the same thing, also making decisions.
I almost interviewed him last week, and he backed out last minute.
Powerful.
And I don't care that it's on the mic. He's not going to see it anyway. But I almost interviewed him for one organization.
He makes decisions, life and death decisions, very powerfully. You do what you got to do.
I never realized how much weight they have on their table.
Yeah. Most people don't realize what goes on by the big Dayunim every week.
That's heavy. So he said about technology. What did he say?
So he said 3 things. He said that it should have a filter. You should only use it for work, and you shouldn't use it at home.
Okay.
So that was the
guidelines.
The guidelines, yeah. But smartphone is something that nobody felt that it's appropriate. It was just a question of getting people out of it. So, yeah. So people, right now you have a very big group of people.
But how does those people do GPS? For example, right? I'm trying to get rid of my smartphone for the longest time, and the rule that I did so far is I have a kosher phone forwarded calls throughout the day, and I leave it at the work. But when I went to Israel, throughout the whole country, first of all, I have to be in touch with a bunch of numbers that are Israeli numbers, and it's easier through WhatsApp. Guy, go copy, paste, and remember all the numbers. That's one issue. The other issue is GPS. You really need a GPS the entire time. What do they do with GPS, you know?
So there are flip phones that have Waze.
Really?
And a lot of people are using tablets. Now, the difference between a tablet and a smartphone is very simple. Nobody walks around at home putting their kids to sleep with a tablet.
Right.
Nobody walks around doing a simcha with a tablet, and nobody sits in shul learning with his chavrisa while using his tablet next
So
to him.
you gain those times.
You basically are able to separate work from personal, and that's important.
That's the
Today-
benefit of the tablet. I never
Correct.
understood it. I see people walking around with
Yeah.
it just like a gemura.
Yeah.
I never understood the benefit.
Yeah.
So
I
even
use
those-
it. I come home, I just put it away because you don't walk around eating with a tablet. It doesn't make sense. So it's basically like a laptop, a small laptop. You're working or you're not working. The smartphone created that everything got mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose yourself.
Right.
Human beings are not designed to multitask.
Wow.
I heard recently a very good concept for this. He said, imagine, so the first idea was that you're getting up in the morning, okay, and you're basically going to all your neighbors, looking into their bedrooms and their dining rooms,
Gewalt.
okay, and then
And the kitchen. You have to see all the
and then
the
you're
food.
starting your day, okay. The other idea that I heard was that somebody was walking to Mincha. He called up 15 people, okay, and he told everybody to wait. He's putting them on hold because he's going to daven Mincha. 15 people on hold. He went into shul and he davened, and then he came out and he started going back to all 15 people. So somebody is saying that basically when you're working with a smartphone and with WhatsApp and with status, and you're going to this guy and to that guy and to that guy, you're basically putting everybody on hold while you're working, and you're telling people, I'm coming right back. I'm just checking out something else, okay?
It's not productive.
And you're also living in everybody's bedroom. So it's just not practical. You lose yourself, you lose your focus. Now everything has an option. So if you need social media for your business, there are solutions for that. There's a solution for everything. It's not black or white.
Right.
There is a Torah-dige way for everything. And this is, I think, something important generally. As a Jew, I took from the Dayan that gives the Ashgucha. He was telling me that when you write about a goy, Trump, you can't say apialucha. You can't say that Trump is amazing. You're not allowed to.
Really?
Yeah, it's a klura shichnurach. There's alucha fin loy sichunaim.
Wow.
Most people don't even know that such an alucha exists. So I told him, that it's so interesting. So he gave me a cipher from Yisrael just for this. And I started learning it. It's fascinating. There's haluchas for everything. Now, you can say that Trump's approach to how to deal with the economy is good. But you can't say that he's good because you can't take a
So
goy
how
and
do you
make
go
him
through
as a role
all
model.
the columns?
So we do have a full-time mashgiach.
Wow.
We have two, actually. We have two full-time mashguchas.
So that's the
One from Williamsburg, one from Monroe. Both of them are reading all the articles, looking through all the ads. And there are situations where something goes in by accident, last minute, this, that. We have to apologize. We're only human. But there's a very strong emphasis because this is the market that we're targeting. So it's not just that we want to put it in because we can make money from the ad, let's say. It's also, we have a responsibility for our audience.
so
Our
you're trying
audience...
to help. You're trying to help.
Our audience have a very specific criteria what they want to take home. So we are targeting that. We're targeting that audience. So any company that wants to reach that audience, there is no other way except from the Yingerman, and that's the whole purpose, the whole idea.
Wow. I would also proclaim that this podcast is at least half the audience is dozing a lot, which don't have. This is kosher, real kosher, and
Correct.
enriching in entertainment.
Correct.
Tell me more about the Yingerman.
So it's an amazing success story because, like I said, it's a very risky thing. You're talking about a crazy amount of money. We're printing 30,000 copies a week.
How did you get to 30,000?
Just the minimum amount. We're catering to 4 locations. Okay, 4 main locations.
Which for?
Williamsburg, Borough Park, Monroe, Monsey. Now
Okay.
it goes to Staten Island, it goes to Lynn, it goes to the UK and Europe, but
UK?
yeah,
Why?
every week.
So you want to cover every Yingerman?
No, we're going to UK just because I have clients there and they're asking for it, and I have an easy way of getting it there.
It is in Yiddish.
It's only in Yiddish.
Only Yiddish. In Israel, they don't read Yiddish.
There's a huge request from Israel nonstop.
Really?
I'll show you Lamo Nigura.
Who
People keep
requests
sending
this?
that
Who
they're reading
requests?
it.
Oh, this is thick, by the way.
Yeah, people are constantly requesting that they're reading it online. We have thousands of people reading it online.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's eight books a week. 4 Yingermans and 4 Yiddinas every single week.
Yiddinis ochet. Why do you also need Yiddinis?
Yiddinas wasn't in the original plan. Okay, Yiddinas was something that we realized after 2-3 months in, that we're getting ads because the marketing companies and the customers were very excited. People reading them on, and they were like, "Okay, I love it. I want to advertise there." Some ads just didn't fit.
So you had to have where to drop it
Yeah, we want to keep the Ingeman very, very clean.
for Yingerland.
Ingeman should feel very, very comfortable. Ingeman doesn't want to start looking through the magazine and see ads for Scheitlich or for ropes.
Right.
And that's why they're not reading, a lot of them are not reading the Woman magazine.
So the reason we started Idene was because we had ads for Scheitlich and we wanted to put them somewhere.
If we have a team of salespeople that are constantly reaching out to companies, telling a company that wants to advertise, we can't help you, is very painful. Now, we do that when it's not appropriate. Okay? But when it's appropriate, we want to be able to cater to both.
So then you had to come up.
Yeah. What we said is, let's take the uniqueness of the Yingerman, which is that the content is extremely practical content. Let's create the Yiddana on the same style, and we'll have both.
How far in did this happen?
12 weeks in.
So 12 weeks in, you make a decision to double your trouble.
Correct.
Columns. You need new columns now for Yiddinus.
Correct.
You need new writers. Why would you do this?
It's the right thing to do.
So Yingerman, you would say, is more of a ofteen, contributing to the community versus business?
No, it is a business. I believe that every non-for-profit should be a business because that's how you could be the most efficient. One of the biggest problems that non-for-profits have is that they're not for business. And because of it, it's all over the place. It needs to be for business. This is something where, this is a project where there's $50,000, $60,000 a week to operate, okay? So you're talking about $3 million a year to operate. If you do it as a non-for-profit, you start struggling and you start figuring out, okay, am I fundraising for this? Am I doing this and that? And usually it starts struggling. The idea is to create it as a business where it's self-sustaining because the advertisers want to advertise, the readers want to read it, the content is great and everybody is happy and it's a business model. People can get paid for their talent and it has a future. It needs to succeed in the long run.
Why would you say this is so much more successful than expected?
I wouldn't say more than expected. I would say as expected because the founder has had a very strong vision, which is why he went into it all the way. You know, when Disney opened up one of his opened up one of their big playgrounds, Epcot or whatever, Disney himself wasn't alive anymore. So his kids were doing the whole celebration, and one of the reporters told one of his kids that it's a shame that your father didn't see this. To which he answered, he did see it, which is why we are here today.
Wow.
You know the story with Disney?
No, but you just said it.
The story with Disney is that when he started, he had a vision of creating a playground for adults. He went around to the banks that he needs a loan of $50,000. And they told him, you're crazy. Which adults are going to go to a playground? This is a dream. It's not reality. We're not funding it. He borrowed from his cash value of his whole life policy his $25,000 to get started because no bank wanted to fund him.
Wow.
He was rejected by every single institution, financial institution.
And how much is he worth today?
Billions.
Wow.
I don't know the exact number.
That's you're bringing an example of a CEO that's determined and believes in his vision.
Yeah.
So Moshe sees this.
Yeah. Now the reality is we're 8 months in, 9 months in, we're putting out 30,000 copies. 3-4 hours later, you can look and everything is taken. So it shows you that. Another thing that I was very shocked is the feedback and the engagement level. Because I know, when you have a newspaper, you need a lot of readers in order to get a single response, because most people are just reading and moving on. Like, what am I going to write a letter or this? The amount of feedback that comes in, letters, some people only have text, but they send in long speeches with text. Some people are calling in, leaving messages. So there's 30, 40 messages every single day. And people are like really engaged,
Wow.
commenting, asking questions, asking for more, thanking. It's amazing.
What would you say is the number for each comment? How many people didn't comment? Berg.
I don't know, but they say it's in the thousands, but I don't know. the
Really?
number. Yeah.
Oh, you're giving me so much chizuk now.
Because if you ask most people, they will tell you they have never sent in a letter to
Right.
any newspaper.
I agree.
Most
I
people
agree.
are in that category.
Yeah, I would see something, I get excited, and I wouldn't say anything if I don't know the person
Correct.
personally.
Correct.
Um,
I'll tell you another interesting thing that happened, which is a byproduct, but it's part of the beauty and the future of this. As a consultant, people come to me. And people tell me, I'm launching this business. I don't have a marketing budget. I want to launch this business. I don't have enough money. So I encourage a lot of people, if they're targeting King a lot, to put it in here. And I'm watching the results because I'm working with them. Now, because it's so targeted to the Heimische market and to a specific group of people, I see people launching businesses. I have now a list on my wall that I look every day because it gives me a lot of chizuk. I have a list of businesses who have launched businesses in the last 8 months strictly on this.
wow.
Yeah, because it's extremely targeted.
Right.
So you don't have to go all over the place because it's in every location.
Where did they find it? On the corner, just like the other ones?
Yeah. So there's there's 110, 112 specific boxes where they're being put every Sunday, and people know to get them there.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of
Sunday is a good time for Ingalat because they don't have koil? They do have koil Sunday.
It's not koilel. It's people who are working. Some of them are not working Sunday, so they're
Oh.
using the day to relax and educate themselves and learn. And people who are working on Sunday, they just take it on the way to work, and then they have a whole week. It's the only publication that comes out on Sunday, so it has a very long shelf life. The
Nice.
publications that come out Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, after Shabbos, it usually goes to the garbage. This has
With the cholent on top of it.
There's another interesting part to this, which is that it's a global paper and a local paper, which is a very interesting phenomenon.
Meaning?
Which means usually right now all the papers, the woman papers, for example, the woman magazines, the Weekly Link is a Barpak paper. Okay, the Community Connections is a Muncie paper. Let's say the Shopper's Route is a Williamsburg paper. Okay, some have 2 locations, some have 1 location. If somebody wants to advertise, it starts, okay, which magazine in this location, which magazine in this location. You're dealing with multiple places, okay?
And by
And you're only targeting the woman, then you need to start thinking about the Ingalat. Here, whatever you want, okay? You want a local place, we have a local book in each location.
Oh, so you have Williamsburg, Boropark, Monsey, Kilsioil,
You want to do...
Canada, UK.
Correct. You want to do all... Now, Canada, UK is not a separate book.
Yet.
It's one of the books. Yeah, one of the books goes to these locations.
So
now,
you have four different books.
4 different books. So if somebody wants to place an ad in all locations, it's 1 phone call. Okay? So you get a low price and you put it in everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You want specific in one location because your business is locally based, you put it into one location. You want to target man and woman, no problem. We put it in Yingerman and Yidana. Okay.
Wow.
So it's basically a one-stop shop, and a lot of people like that because
So you have 8 different kind of books. The distribution must be very sophisticated so they don't mess it up.
Correct.
This guy do, this guy don't. And from the 30,000 copies, are you planning to go up in numbers?
We are going up every week. We're going up a little.
So it's a small number each time?
As the market is getting bigger.
Wow.
There's more people entering the workforce. There are more people becoming aware of the content and the ads, and there are more people enjoying it. So
when you started Yidana, I'm assuming that the Yidana women write.
Correct.
So they sit in a different location, or it's all freelancers, it's all at home?
We do have a big office, and some of the team is remote.
Uh-huh. So this is creating a whole new, this is probably only Moshe. You as the consultant, were you debating with yourself, is he crazy enough to take a dive into this and we should go for it or not?
I try to be very realistic and practical. If I can create a logic plan on pen and paper of how I'm going to execute it, and there is the funding for it, and I have a logic plan of how to go from point A to point B, I'm okay with an idea being very big.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that some ideas I'm working now on 3 new businesses that I'm in the process of launching with other teams. Some, as long as I can make sense out of it and there is the proper setting, I will launch it.
So sometimes you would tell them, hey, you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough people, personnel for this. Relax. It's too big of an idea for you.
Some people are just not. I'm not the owner, so I can't do the work that an owner needs to do. I can be the consultant. I can tell you which mistakes not to make because others have made it already. I can tell you where to focus on. I can try to help you solve problems as they come. I cannot replace an owner. An owner is a person that keeps going despite the difficulties. And again, this is something that people need to remember. Sometimes you look at people, they come 12 o'clock in Shiel, drive a big SUV, and they play Oisher, and people think, I want to be an Oisher like that, not work much, just go
12
around.
o'clock, SUV, no.
Now, in a lot of cases, that person needs help, okay?
Wow.
He's not an Oisher, okay? And I do meet with some of those people, and they are struggling, and it's strange because I walk in the Shiel, in the Kavashtibel, and people say this guy has millions, and I just finished a meeting with him, and he's in serious debt and trouble. Just last week, we had an issue with Yingerman. We were missing part of the distribution didn't work properly. I got a message. I got up in the morning last week, Tuesday morning. I got a message from the owner of the Balbusta, okay, who is a competitor. He's sending me a message simply, my team, everything is available to help you out this week.
I don't believe this.
I didn't even ask.
This is so nice.
So this is something that is, it's amazing.
Balbusta is who? Balbusta
Yingerman?
also has a...
No.
Balbusta is just for women.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you started, there was a lot of people, and including myself, when you say the word Yingerman, I'm doubting another magazine. Who's darf man es auf den Kopf? And what you're saying is that there is an important niche, and it covers a very important need for the Yingelat.
When we started, everybody that we told the idea that we're creating a magazine specifically for Heimish Yingelat, everybody was like, wow, definitely a need for it. Nobody was questioning the need. We are surprised how successful it became from people actually advertising and seeing results, which was the purpose that Yingelat should have an easy way of reaching other Yingelat. There's thousands of Heimische businesses targeting Heimische businesses. We have our own economy. If you want to talk about the economy, people are asking, where's the economy going? The truth is, we have our own economy, meaning even if the big economy is struggling for a while and will struggle for a while, which we don't know. With our current president, we can have a different economy every week based on the speed that he's going. But the truth is, we have our own Heimische economy.
Right.
Somebody just told me, before Purim, people were taking out money. And every year, the same situation. It comes a day before Purim, and you're asking Chase for singles, and they tell you they don't have.
They ran out.
Yeah. So somebody told me, he asked the manager, he says, you don't remember last year you ran out?
Right.
Why don't you prepare?
And
he says, because you people are unpredictable. You're giving out so much money that I can't even imagine how much to prepare.
wow.
And he said a guy was here this morning asking for 4,000 singles.
Wow.
And he says, the amount of money that we're giving out, okay, I am bringing in a few $1 million of singles, but you always need more.
Yeah.
Because Klal Yisrael is amazing. Now, a big part of that is that the more we grow, the more internal economy we have, okay? Right now, you can do any service for the Heimische community, and make a nice panusa from it because there's such a big demand for everything.
This is a debate that I'm having with myself for a long time. And as we're speaking, I'm considering a private session with you, not on camera. But this is a debate that I'm having. It's blue ocean and what is it called, the smaller one? The red ocean, right? The red one is when the shark bites the other one, and it's the red ocean. There's nowhere to move. The blue ocean is endless. So I keep thinking, am I in such a small niche? Can I grow? Do I have where to grow to? The answer is probably yes, but there's so many. Like, for example, podcasts. There's, I don't even know, at least 10 or maybe more Yiddish speaking in the last few months.
Yeah. So the answer is, most of the time, the answer is yes, there is enough opportunity. Because what happens is, in short, that when more people go into an industry, it doesn't make the industry smaller. It makes the market share bigger because there's more people who are getting into it. For example, let's say recruiting. Yeah, when I started 6 years ago with recruiting, most people were like, "No thanks. I know how to find my own workers." Okay. Fast forward 6 years, most companies today is, what do I have time to go interview so many people? Bring me somebody and let's move on. Okay. What happened? So everybody that goes into a market, okay, so for example, there's a lot of podcasts. So now there's more people who watch podcasts, but I still chose to come to your podcast. Why?
I appreciate it.
Okay. Why did I come to you? Because everybody that does something, everybody has their own qualifications. You can't, the saying, be yourself, everybody else is taken. Okay. There's no such a thing as two people should do the same thing. I personally don't believe that there is such a thing as competition in business. I can prove to you that there's no business that ever went out of business because of competition.
Wow.
The only reason, if you want to go through case by case, I'll prove it to you. If a business goes out of business and they say it's because competition swallowed them alive, as they would say, it is because they did not evolve.
So constantly you need to evolve.
Correct. Let's take BlackBerry for an example. No, the younger generation doesn't know what BlackBerry is.
Right.
But you take anything for an example, any business that is struggling, okay?
It's because they're stuck in their own place.
There's always mazel and everything. But the degatevige weg is because people don't like change. So people like to do the same thing over and over and over. But if I sit down with you, or if you sit down with someone outside of your industry, a lot of times they will tell you, your industry is going in these places, where are you? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Now, most people are like, the answer is, I'm afraid.
Right.
Okay. But I can show you personally, on the top of my head, without thinking much, a few things that you can do that will double your income in the next 12 months.
I don't know if I want this on camera. I'm not sure. You can try. I can cut it out later.
No, I'm not going to do it now. I'm saying that I can show every business. There are exceptions. There are certain industries that I would say are really, really limited.
Right.
Okay. Let's say somebody comes to me now. They want to be a one-man player.
One-man band.
A one-man band.
There's only so much you can do.
It's very limited from different angles.
Right. Tell me something fascinating behind the scenes that people don't know or don't expect.
I would say one thing that people don't expect is how many ads we lose a week because of hashgacha, which means that we choose not to put it in because it's not 100% appropriate for our audience.
Really?
Thousands of dollars a week. That's something that most people are not aware of.
Is there a sample you can give me without a name? What could be something
it's basically very simple. Very simple. A lot of fashion companies are making ads using non-Jewish models, and they specifically dress them in a way that is not Heimish, with the cheshbon that some people want to buy goyish brands.
And that's not something for this audience.
Is very clear, and we choose to go with our audience, which doesn't want it. So every week we have to say no to a lot of things, including concerts that are not, including all kinds of classes, courses, where the creators of the courses are not approved by the Heimish audience.
The mashgiach, the in-house mashgiach, right? You have an in-house or two, you said.
We have two mashgichim.
These mashgichim are approved by who?
they represent different kehillas
So
who
it's,
cover 60-70% of our audience.
so every time you have to ask them for
We do.
approval.
We do.
Wow.
Most of the things we know by ourselves, but it's something that we do, and we do it because we believe in it. It's the right thing to do, but most people would not realize.
So you could say this is the most kosher magazine you'll ever find so far.
I would say I can't say the most kosher because I'm not
In the US.
I'm not measuring others. Okay, I can just tell you that it is as kosher as it gets, in the sense that there are two heimische mashgichim that look at everything, and we take all the feedback seriously. Like occasionally there is a mistake, something that goes in without people. Sometimes we can catch it early enough and we bring it back from print, but sometimes it goes in. Nothing terrible, but enough that some people get angry. Sometimes there's an ad that is using a Yiddish thing, like Chanukah and this and that. People got very into lately of making crazy ads using Yiddishkeit, okay? Like, let's say, for example, Pesach is coming, okay? Let's use a simple example. Pesach is coming. In our days, okay, when we grew up, Pesach was you ate what you made home. Okay?
Right.
Today, you walk into the grocery store, you can buy 7-layer kushel Pesach. Okay?
Wow.
So what people would, in order for a marketing company to make the brand exciting, they say, okay, you don't even have to know that it's Pesach. But that's against Yiddishkeit. The whole Yiddishkeit is, Laman Yaidi, you should know that it's Pesach, you should know that it's Sikas, you should know that it's Chanukah.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay? They say the 9 days, for example. Okay, people are advertising products that taste like meat or anything, and they say you don't even have to feel the 9 days. What do you mean I don't have to feel?
That's the whole
The
goal.
whole purpose of the 9 days is a mensch darf sich meizen v'doeg alle chab b'samigdash.
Yeah, I get it.
So
Wow.
it's these things that we have to. We're trying to be very careful. And it's slowly, I think the marketing companies and everybody's getting the concept that there is a huge market for heimische ads that people want to see, people will buy, and people will use. You don't need to be crazy and provocative in order to engage your audience. You could be very creative within the heimische framework.
You mentioned the 9 days. I must comment. I had one time an ad that I made for a Psa Milchige restaurant. And it finished off. It was a punch joke. I didn't make much out of it, and I didn't have Ashgucha at the time. Today, by the way, this podcast has Ashgucha. There's a Dayan that listens word for word and erases a lot. So I had an ad. Yeah, Leza's maskim. So I had an ad that at the end, the punchline was that they had like a full pyramid of plates, empty plates. They ate the whole thing, and then he tells him, "No, vis noch machasiyim." Like, that was the punchline. Now, I thought it's funny, but I got so much bashed. Machtavek the siyim, and
Okay.
I understood where they're coming from. I let it go. I was actually excited for it. Negative feedback, Otipsa plus.
Yeah, but the truth is, let's go back to what we started. We as Heimish Yidden, we have so much to be proud of, so much to be confident of. The truth is that our lifestyle is a happy lifestyle. We're based on family. We're based on Torah values. I'll give you an example that happened a few weeks ago. I had an employee that came into my company, one of my companies, and we started training her. The 2 days in, she came to me and she said she feels that the job is not for her. She wants to leave.
2 days.
2 days, yeah. And I said, okay, I understand. I'm not, some people, it has to fit, has to make sense to you, okay? Now, a week after, her husband calls me that he wants me to pay her for these 2 days.
Okay.
And I'm like, come on.
She left.
She left. I spent 10 hours training her, my staff, telling her what to do. She didn't do a single thing yet. We spent so much time and resources training her after interviewing her. Really? I didn't say him anything. I told him I'll see. Picked up the phone. I called my brother. I have 2 brothers who are big Choshmish B'dayunim.
Really?
Yeah. And I called my brother and I said, here's the story. And he said, give me a minute. Let me think. There's that. He says, 100% you have to pay.
Wow.
Went to the bookkeeper and I said, Let's write a check and let's mail it out. As a Jew, for everything, there is a clear guidelines what you have to do. You don't have to get up in the morning thinking, how am I supposed to be happy? What do I need to do for a living? What do I need to do today to be happy? How much time should I spend learning? How much time should I spend with my family? There is a rule for everything. And if you don't know, you can either go and sit and learn, or you can ask somebody that does know. But a Jew has a guide, a very clear guidelines for everything. And by following that, you become very, very happy, which is a proven fact that everybody who has tried it. So you can run a business like that, be very successful, do your ishtadlus, and do amazingly well, and build up using the most of the qualifications that Hashem gave you. And this is the biggest satisfaction. The biggest satisfaction is, they asked a lot of people in old age homes before they passed away what they regret. And they documented it. And there's research on that. It's very interesting. What they saw is that very few people had regrets on things that they did, regardless of how bad it was. Most people had regrets on things they didn't do. They were like, I had this vision, I had this thing. So, for example, I launch companies with people. I know that some of these companies might not work out because statistically speaking, some of them are not going to work out. But it's okay to fail. You fail yourself to success, okay? Success and happiness are not a destination where some people arrive there and some people not. And everybody's like, okay, how do I get to be successful? There is no such a thing as being successful. So what is the destination? It's a journey. It's a journey that you keep going from one struggle to the other without losing momentum. Mm-hmm. Because Hashem wants you to deal with your struggles. Every person that has a family of kids will tell you that every single child has challenged them in another way. Chinuch, in my opinion, again, I'm not a mechanech, but my observation of chinuch is not how am I mechanech my child. How am I mechanech myself when my child is around? Mm. The problem with chinuch is not I don't know what to do with my child. I don't know what to do with myself. I lose myself.
100%.
If you have to grow. If you have a teenager that is challenging, okay, you don't have to do anything with your teenager. He's fine. Okay, he has his path in life and he will figure it out along the way. The question is, what are you going to do? You as a parent, you're supposed to give him support so he can grow and develop. Are you giving that to him, or are you stressed out of your mind and you're making the situation worse? Same thing is with business. Hashem runs the world. Businesses are moving. Hashpur is coming down. Everything, Shefa is coming all the way. And everything has opportunity and potential. The problem is when we keep stepping on the brakes. Okay, you can't try driving, putting one foot on the pedal, one foot on the brakes. You know what happens? It comes up a warning that you can't do that. You're either braking or you're driving. Hashem is running the world. The world does not stop. It has not stopped since its creation, and it will not stop regardless of what you want to do. Okay, there is no hold button that you can say, let's put the world on hold while I figure myself out. You have to figure yourself out while you're going.
Right.
Okay. There's a famous joke of a heart surgeon that went to a mechanic to fix his engine. And they were talking, and the mechanic was asking the heart surgeon how much money he makes from a surgery. And he told him he makes $15,000 per surgery. And the mechanic was saying, I'm working here like crazy. I'm getting dirty. I'm fixing your engine, and I'm getting $30 an hour. Okay. The heart surgeon said, try fixing the engine while it's running. What are you doing? You're turning off the engine, you're taking it apart, you're fixing it, you're putting it back on. I have to operate on a heart while it's pumping. I can't put it on hold.
Wow.
There's no such thing putting it on hold. Life is not going on hold. Life is going every day, every minute, and it's going on purpose. Hashem has a very specific thing for you, what you need to do. How do you know what you need to do? Look what showed up. Every challenge that showed up.
What's the Rutz Hashem right now?
Right now. Do the best you can with what you have. Don't focus on the past. Don't worry about the future. Do the best that you can right now
with what you have. Somebody told me Eid. Ich jetzt du. Right? Me here right now.
Correct. And again, it takes a lot of practice. The Slonim Rabbis used to say, Amantik Yadabai. I believe because I talk about it. It's something you need to talk about it. It's not something where you say, okay, from now on, I believe. It's something you need to practice. You need to remind yourself every day because nature is pulling us to negativity
Right.
and to worry. But we always have to remember that we are creations of Hashem. Everything He does is for the good, regardless if we see it or not. Life is about challenges. We should do the best we can and keep going. And with Hashem's help, everybody would succeed.
So when was the moment that you decided you're helping people?
I would say I was born with a natural thing that I want to help. When I see something, I want to help. When I started actually focusing on it was in yeshiva. I was about 18 years old. I was learning in yeshiva in London. And I realized another boy who was sitting like 2-3 tables away from me. And I started noticing that he's just not reading inside from the Gemara. He's learning.
Meaning, Olsenweinig?
Yeah. He has a Gemara open in front of
and?
him, but he's not looking inside.
Because he's not capable of reading?
I didn't know why.
Okay.
I just saw. I started noticing it because I do notice these little things. And I asked him. And he said, no, I can't read.
Wow.
And I'm like, how is that possible?
How did you survive till now?
Yeah, he's 18 years old. He's in yeshiva and he's not reading. But he's learning. So he was moving along. And I think even his chavrisa didn't know. Because they were like learning and he got good at it. You know, you learn how to survive with your challenges.
He's a good actor for sure.
He is a good, I think we all are.
Yeah.
We're all acting we want to present. We have something that we are and then we have different images, the image that we want other people to look at us.
I try to even out both if possible.
At least you think you are.
Yeah, okay. I do.
So it started bothering me. And I started thinking there's got to be a way of helping him. Now, I did not know anything about it. I didn't know there is such a condition called dyslexia. I didn't know that some people are suffering from it because I didn't have that issue. But it bothered me. It bothered me that somebody's suffering. And it bothered me that there's no one that is helping him.
Mm.
Now, at the time, there wasn't much that I could do. I was in yeshiva, but my head started working. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. Short time later, I got engaged and I got married to the United States.
So you were born in Europe, Antwerp. And you went to yeshiva in London. Is that normal to go to yeshiva?
There's no yeshiva in Antwerp.
Because it's too little buchim?
Yeah, there's not enough Hasidic buchim. Today there is, but in those days, there wasn't a Hasidic yeshiva. There's only one big yeshiva in Antwerp called Willerijk. It's outside of Antwerp. And it used to be more not Hasidic.
How far is London from Antwerp? I know all the Europeans will laugh at me, but how far is it?
It is 1 hour by plane.
Okay, you went by plane? You didn't go by plane?
No, in those days we used to go by ship. The car would go on the ship. It's still some people travel today. Today there's Eurostar, which is the car goes on the train.
Okay.
In 36 minutes,
nice.
You go from England to France.
36 minutes is Borpak to Staten Island?
No, yeah, but it's not, you get to France, you still have to go 2 hours to Antwerp. So it's like, I think 4 hours, about 4 hours today, driving.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up in Antwerp, went to yeshiva to London and got married in the United States.
So where in the United States?
Monroe.
How was the transition from London to Monroe? Or from Antwerp to Monroe?
It's very different. Europe and the United States is two different worlds.
Did you come before the wedding, or it was the first time?
I was here for a few months in yeshiva in Monroe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you knew a little bit.
I knew a little bit, yeah. And we used to come to the Rebbe every Yontif, so it's not like I was a little bit familiar, but it's completely different culture. The language is different, even though we speak Yiddish, but I learned in Chai the Flemish.
Wow.
So I didn't know the ABC. I had to struggle to learn.
You didn't know to read or even...
Neither. I mean...
Read and write.
Correct.
Okay, so you're like me.
I can speak.
Speak you did know.
No.
You didn't know to speak English?
No, because Flemish and English is not the same.
Not at all.
The girls in Antwerp learn 3 languages. French, Flemish, and English. Belgium, generally, Antwerp, Belgium, speaks 3 languages, but the legal language, the first language, is Flemish. So you can't go to the other 2 before you don't learn Flemish. So the boys, we learn
They don't
Gemura.
get to the other two.
We don't have time, we hardly get to Flemish. So,
Wow.
but the little that I know was Flemish, yeah.
Wow. So that's a struggle in itself. You go to the grocery, everything, signs, everything.
Correct.
I was struggling to read and write when I came, but I knew to speak, which was a big plus. Okay. You want to speak about that challenge, or it's not such a big of a deal for you?
I picked it up over time. I remember my first job after I got married was in the Cheder and in the public school in Monroe, helping learning disabled kids. And on my first week there, I was an assistant to a teacher from Muncie, and I asked him how much is the time.
Oh,
And
that's
he
how you
said-
say it.
And he said $19.99 plus tax. So it was embarrassing.
Oy,
It
gewaltig.
was embarrassing in the beginning. The good thing was that because it's a public school, we weren't allowed to speak Yiddish.
Okay. Oh, so you had to
We
force
had
yourself?
to speak English.
That's what you're
So
saying.
within 2-3 months,
It helped you.
I would say I spoke fluent English. Yeah,
Nice. So Gamzi Latoive.
everything is
Latoive.
correct.
Wow.
So back to I got married and I went to Koile for a few months, and then I went to Cheder to help. Now, why did I go to help? For the same idea. I had a friend who had a child, and he was struggling. The child was struggling.
In the US.
Yeah, here.
Okay.
in Monroe. And the same idea, I was like, there's got to be a way of helping the child.
Mhm.
So since I was married already, I had more time. I wasn't in yeshiva anymore. So I started researching. There's got to be methods to help these kids. So I started reading. I basically forced myself to read
Wow.
different languages just so I can find solutions, because my thinking is always that there is a solution out there. I just have to find it. So I started, and I also went for I started listening to different tapes. There was
How many years ago is this?
27.
27. Yeah. We
So
still
there were
had tapes.
tapes. So I was listening to Reb Heschel Fried. There was different mechanchem at the time. Baruch Shalom was a guy from Israel with a very good coaching and guiding. And
About special needs?
about kids, and whatever knowledge I got, I was trying then to say, okay, can I apply it? Can I do it? So to make a long story short, I took a child that the child was about 11, wasn't able to read. And within, I would say, 4 months, I got the child to read.
Wow.
Now, exactly how, I don't think I can explain to you how, but I just used different tools, deciding based on the child's reaction,
What
this
works?
method, until I got there. Now, the father told the principal in the school, and the principal in the school said, okay, if you can help this child, we have a lot of others here that need help. Why don't you come in and work? So I
Wow.
did that. After a while, the public school said I should come work over there because they have a lot of professionals there, so I can get more training.
Which one? What's the,
The
name?
public school, Shara Chemla.
Shara Chemla.
The same thing happened in the public school. There were a lot of really disabled kids, autistic kids, mentally disabled, real bad cases.
They're all a mix? There's no like levels? I know today there's a lot of levels.
Not in the public school, no. In public school is basically any kid that cannot be mainstreamed in any way has to go to the public school. Public school is very small classes, but the classes are mixed. You'll have...
But it's the only mixed in levels.
Yeah.
It's the only Yiddish public school in the United
Correct.
States.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct. Now, according to the Constitution, you can't mix religion with government funding.
Right.
So it operates as a public school, but for the most part, I would say 90%, it is local Heimische kids.
Right.
And they try to help the kids as much as possible, help them with, they should be able to function.
How long were you there for in Shara Chemla?
About 3 years.
Okay.
But in Shadchan, I did the same thing. I started looking at these kids and I said, okay, what else can we do? I felt that we could teach them a lot more. And I got a lot of pushback because when you're dealing with these type of kids, you want to be very safe. So it's safer to keep the child in a chair than to have him crawl and push him to learn more and to go more and to go more. So, but my drive is let's push them as much as we can. I have a brother-in-law that is Down syndrome. And when he was born, my mother-in-law decided to teach him as much as she could. Even though he's limited, he's autistic and he's Down syndrome, she decided to push him. And she put in a tremendous amount of work in the first 3 years of his life, including my wife did a big part of it. And he speaks now a few languages fluently.
Really?
Yeah, and he reads a lot. He's extremely, extremely intelligent.
Wow.
And so it shows that you could do a lot. It's not easy. It's not easy, and it's definitely not easy to do in a school setting. But there's a lot that could be done in every setting.
Or it's too much effort.
Yeah, you see some people who are very that are born with certain limitations. They are missing hands, they're missing feet, whatever, and they still get very far because they push themselves and they believe that they could.
Right.
But in the mainstream, it is difficult. But
and the sad part is that a lot of people, with all their hands and feet and everything functioning, don't do much.
Correct.
It's sad.
Correct. It is.
Because people don't believe in themselves.
Correct. So, for example, one thing I decided is I realized that these kids respond very well to music. Now, today it's very common that there's a lot of people that go around singing for these kids, but we're talking
27
years ago. So I partnered up with Gershi Moshkevich, who was still a bucher.
Wow.
You know Gershi?
Brother Gershi, Avada.
So I reached out to Gershi. Gershi was still a bucher, but Gershi was already involved in the music line. And I told Gershi, we have a public school here with so many kids. Let's get some music here. We started doing, I think it was like once a month.
He also used to live in Monroe?
No.
As a square, right?
He started bringing all the top singers at the time. Matre, Avrom, Lipe Schmelze, Suli Willinger.
To where? To the
to the public school.
Okay.
And we would put everybody in the lobby and the kids would dance and everything. So it was amazing experiences. And the teachers and the staff were amazed at how kids who weren't talking, kids who were sitting and staring at the wall for hours and hours and hours, all of a sudden started getting so involved. It was it was a great experience. Now, from there, I just started looking around at my friends, and people were telling me they're struggling with this, People started jobs, people started businesses, and I would start just giving people advice. You can do this, you can do this. And after a while, somebody said, why don't you charge for advice? Why do you keep telling people what to do without asking them for money?
27 years ago, there was this thing of consulting, Bichlal? I know today, half Klal Yisrael is consulting the other half.
I don't know at the time. I'm sure there was somebody, but I don't know in the real Heimische market if there was a official consultant.
It's probably very schwach.
Yeah. But I said, you know what? I am charging. How much? I said $40 an hour.
Back then, was it something?
It was decent.
Okay.
I would say I do remember my first job in Shadchan. I got paid $420 a week for a full-time job.
Wow.
8:45 to 3:45. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably
$40 an hour was decent.
Yeah. Even when I came 18 years ago, I got paid $650, and it was decent for a week.
Yeah. Yeah, $800 a week was decent for a long, long time.
Yeah, now
it's good till Monday.
A dozen of eggs you can't buy for it.
Okay, so that's how I got into
consulting. When did it turn official that you went to consulting?
I don't know if it ever turned official. I think it was unofficial.
Okay,
it was unofficial, and maybe it still is. Working with people, telling people what to do, I realized a lot of people are just not sure of themselves. They keep questioning themselves. They keep thinking they're not good enough. And I have to keep giving them chizuk. You know, it's always easier to give somebody else chizuk than to
Yeah.
give yourself chizuk. So even though my confidence wasn't the best at the time either, but it was easier for me to see somebody else, see the talent in him, and realize he's not using much of his talent, and push him to do his talent, to use more of his talent.
So what you're saying is every human needs another big brother.
Correct.
Like even a Rebbe who gives aitzes for everyone is also going to need somebody to consult with and to...
Correct. Because your fears are always personal. I'm not afraid for you to take a risk. Okay.
You don't have my
I don't
fears,
have your
right?
fears. I can help you think logically, but the fear part I don't have.
Wow, that's genius. So all you need is to push someone because you don't have those fears. I never thought of it that way. I was in Eretz Yisrael this week. By the way, I'm still in the landing zone. It takes me a week to land at least. And I sat with a group of Buchrim. Somebody suggested, recommended, and a whole thing. I sat with 8 Buchrim, are still excited about the Olam Hazeh. And I'm trying to convince them, based on experience, there's nothing to go for. Come back. So I told them that the only person between them and their dream is themselves. Nobody else gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to stand between him and his dream. Nobody's blocking you. You're blocking yourself. So
Okay.
finding the strength in someone and pushing him is...
Correct. If you want to go a little deeper into this, the purpose of life is to go and through all your challenges and come out stronger because of it, utilizing your qualifications. Okay, Hashem created us with a tremendous amount of skills and capabilities, and He wanted us to use it. So He built it into our nature that if we're not using it, we will feel lost and unhappy. And the easiest example is vacation. Okay, people keep saying they need a vacation.
Okay.
They go on vacation, and after 2 days,
They
they're
feel
getting
more
itchy.
tired.
They're getting itchy.
Oh,
When
they're
are
getting
we
itchy
going
in the
back?
vacation, right?
Where else can we go? Didn't you want to just relax?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing, people retire. They say, I worked enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to retire.
I can't wait to
What am I
retire.
going to do? Just sit and relax. 3 months later, you meet them and they're like, I'm volunteering in this group. I'm going here. I'm going there. Why don't you just sit and relax? The answer is, that's not what we are here for.
Wow.
So
we're
we will-
designed to go through struggles?
Correct.
Why does it have to be with struggles?
Because that's the purpose of this world, for us to develop and become stronger. And the way we become stronger is by going closer to Hashem, because we can't solve our struggles ourselves. Okay, so that goes into Ishtadlus and Emunah and Bitachon, where Hashem wants us to keep doing the best we can, but at the same time, know and remember that we're not in control.
Which is very confusing.
Correct.
Because am I doing something or am I not? So if I'm not doing anything, so I'll sit down and I'll learn something and Hashem is going to take care of the rest.
It's confusing, but it's not confusing. Okay? It's very simple, but it's not easy. It's simple because the yisod is very clear. The yisod is you have to do the best you can right now in the moment. Okay? I remember years ago I went to Rabbi Yankel Shechter and I told them that I'm working with people. And I tell people you can be a millionaire, you can do this, you can do that. And people tell me, if it's Bashir, it's going to come to me. Why do I have to work? And I told them, I told Rabbi Yankel I'm not so sure how to answer. I'm not a rabbi, He looks at me and he says, it's very simple. There's Emunah, there's Bitachon, and there's Ishtadlus. What's the difference? He says, Emunah is on the past. You don't have to keep thinking, I could have bought a building in Manhattan in the 1980s. I could have done this, I could have done that, because you couldn't. How do you know? Because you didn't.
It didn't happen.
You
Okay.
didn't. Bitachon is for the future. Don't keep worrying
What's
what
gonna
will be
be
tomorrow.
Okay.
You're not in control. And everybody over the 40 will tell you, you're not in control.
Okay.
20 to 40, you can try to think that you're in control. Over the 40, everybody will tell you.
I just saw this Shabbos. Reb Shimon Spitzer writes, Mem v'samach shabaliches b'nes hayoimdim. From the 40 to the 60, you need a nest to cope.
Now, why this is important is because if you think about it, you'll see most people are taking the past, projecting it into the future, and feel messed up in the current. Okay?
Yeah,
I've tried
that's-
so many things. I will never succeed with anything. Because of it, I am miserable right now. So
Wow.
you're not actually working. You're not doing anything.
not productive.
You're not productive right now
Wow.
because of all your cheshbonis. So the right way to live, and this is Chavis Halvovas, very, very clear, and this is not confusing. It's very, very simple. The way to live is to believe. And, I gave a speech 2 weeks ago in a shield. I said an interesting idea that just popped into my head at the moment. And I said that during COVID, okay, was the first time for most people that lived at the time where people really gave up. People were sitting home and they were sick. There's no shield to go to. There's no business. They're not sure if the business is open or closed.
There's nowhere to run.
They don't know
to.
if they have customers. So they couldn't plan. Okay. Most of the time when something happens, people start right away planning. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'll go here. I'll go there. COVID was like
No plan.
no plan. And after a week or two, people said, you know what? I don't have a plan. But Hashem, you're running the world anyway, so let me just enjoy. And people were actually enjoying living in Hashem's world.
Some people.
Some people. People were enjoying davening, people were enjoying their family, and people said, you know what? Hashem's taking care of all the animals. He'll take care of us as well. We're not worse than animals. He'll
Wow.
take care of us. And you know what? He did. There wasn't, I don't know if in the history, there was so much hashpuas than there was from the end of COVID, from 3 months in COVID, for 3 years straight, there was non-stop money
Hmm.
from Amazon, from government help, from programs, from food programs. There was non-stop hashpuas. Okay,
So some people
Because
would say
people-
that now we're paying the price of
But
the
again-
Emunah gap that we had because we have money anyway, so we're
correct,
good.
correct. And this is the way. Bavigdor Miller used to say that if you look in history, you'll see every 50 years, the Jewish nation got into serious trouble.
50 or 70?
50, 70, I don't know, 100.
I heard
But-
it about 7.
yeah.
Okay. 50,
And the
70.
reason is because people get very, very comfortable. But this is human nature. We all have egos, and the ego is the number one thing that humans are trying to do is survive. So we're always going in to survive. Now, we have a moech and we have a lev. In the head, you ask any Jew, do you believe Hashem runs the world? Yes. Do you believe he will provide for you? Yes. So why are you so worried about paying your bill?
And why are you working overtime?
Correct. The answer is because you don't feel it right now.
Right.
Pshim Spitzer says every Oisher has a whole shir of salvuvas that he gives to poor people. But then when he loses his big deal, he's completely lost. What happened to your Chav Salvuvas shir? Why don't you learn it now? So, the Balatanya was in jail. And the prison ward asked him, what do you do all day? Because he was sitting in Dvaikis. And he says, I'm building a bridge.
Hmm.
And this prison ward was like, okay, the rabbi went crazy in
Yeah.
jail. And the Balatanya said, I'm building a bridge from my brain to my heart.
Hmm.
And he said, V'yidatu hayoim, v'hashayvoisu el levuvechu.
Because I know it here.
You know it here, but you have to bring it here. And this is the purpose of life, which is living with Hashem in daily life, practicing Emunah and Bitachon.
Wow.
Okay, so how did we get here? So
So 1 second, you just clarified for me a question I've been having forever. I always had Emunah Bitachon Shtadlis. Where's the Emunah? Where's the? It was very clear.
correct.
The past, present.
Now, what's important to remember is both parts. Number one, that worrying about the past and about the future is a waste of time and it doesn't belong to you. And hishtadlus is really important. Okay?
Although it's not always a direct result.
Correct. It never is.
Wow.
Part of the way Hashem runs the world, making sure you don't forget that He runs the world, is that you ask every business person and they will tell you that some of the things that they relied on most did not work out, while other things they did not rely on worked out very well. And that's on purpose as well. So you should not think. So Hashem is trying as much as He can to help you realize, but He still wants you to put in the effort and remember and don't get stuck in your ego thinking that you're doing it. And the same thing is with tzedakah, with your employees. Always remember that you're just here to do your best part, get up every day. So, Ishtadlus, Hashem wants you to work. A lot of people are just not working. Okay, you got to show up. You got to show up for work.
So it is confusing, you know. A Mensch hat a minne betochen. It is confusing that the Stadlis part has nothing to do with the Datsua. It's a curse for Odom Rishon.
Correct.
But you
is.
still have to go out and do your stuff.
Correct.
I myself had at least 5 or 6 throughout the last 8 years, 5 or 6 big accounts that this is gonna be the one. This is ich gave a millionaire just from this client, and every time it failed. Every time.
Okay.
Every time I was excited about a client, like this is a big one, he went bye-bye.
I'll tell you myself, when I started doing consulting for bigger companies, there was one company that I always dreamt I want to get there one day. Something that a company that I just love what they do, and I felt I should be their consultant because I can do so much and everything. Finally, took 8 years, and I got there. Okay, from the first day, I realized that it's not for me. Okay, it was one of the worst clients in terms of difficulty, just difficult circumstances that I had to deal with. Okay, which reminds me, I worked for Guardian Life, training 65 financial planners for 2 years, 2.5 years. One of them was a very, very successful agent. And he told me that when he started out, he would ask Hashem every time he went to make a sale that this guy should buy a policy. And people bought, some people didn't buy. He says a year later, some of these people that bought were driving him so crazy. He was begging Hashem, you remember this guy that bought? Can you just get him off my back?
Wow.
So he said something very interesting. He said, going forward, he says, from that moment on, every time I went to an appointment, I said, you know what, Hashem, I don't know if this person should buy or not. Which one is better for me? I do my part. You do the rest. And this is a very important lesson because sometimes we feel, if only I can get this, if only I can get this.
It's not always the case.
It's not always the case. And don't try to control the future. Don't try to predict the future, but do your part. But I think it's important, the other part as well. I'll give you a crazy example, okay? I had a whole recruiting team for 6 years. Team of 8, 9 recruiters. We hired over 500 people for companies, for my clients, for other people in the Penguin Group, my consulting company. And people would send in their resumes that they want work, and I would call them up and I would say, okay, can we schedule an interview? And they would say, sure. And I said, okay, great. I'll see you tomorrow 8:30 in my office. And they would be like, can we do 10? And I'm like, no.
Why not?
Because if you're looking for a job and I am available 8:30, you better be there 8:30.
Put in the effort.
Yeah. Now his cheshm was that he's sleeping 8 o'clock.
Right.
Why should he get up?
Right.
The Stadlers.
Right.
Okay. So a lot of people, they keep kvetching that they're not making enough money.
But they're not doing their Stadlers.
They're not doing their Stadlers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
What about someone who does overtime all the time? Like me. I always do work overtime.
The rule of Ishtadlis is, according to the Rambam, according to the, if you look in the Paschim, that Ishtadlis means within reason. Okay.
So I'm technically the same as the lazy guy. I'm just the other side. I'm doing too much Ishtadlis. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. A person, Ishtadlis means that you're working, let's say, 37 hours a week. Now, you can choose your hours. Some people work during the day, some people work during the night. But it's very obvious that working more than that is not going to make you more money.
Mm-hmm.
And people have proven it. Now, why? You can say, if you want to go the Bitachon route, it is because everything is bashit, and if you're going to make the money, you're going to make it anyway. But practically speaking, also, if you want to talk the practical way, is because in certain ways, the less you work, the more you make, because you're working smarter, not harder. Working more doesn't mean you're making more. It just means you're working harder.
Right.
The people who make more money are not the people who work harder. Now, it is true that successful people work hard, but not because they work overtime. Successful people work hard because they take their work seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And they put in the effort.
Right.
And those people, a lot of successful people also learn very hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I joke with kollel guys that they should learn as much as I work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in kollel, you should learn at least 8 hours a day.
Right. Put in the effort.
Yeah. And the same thing, if you're looking for a job, put in 40 hours a week of effort of finding a job.
Right.
Some people put in an effort of half an hour a day looking for a job, and they say there's no jobs available.
Right.
Put in 40 hours, you'll see there is jobs.
Maybe the same goes for sales. If somebody
Correct.
puts in the 40 hours for sales, he will make.
I once wrote an article, salespeople never fail, they just stop trying.
Hmm.
You can't fail as a salesperson. I've coached over 1,000 salespeople at this point. I've never seen a salesperson fail when they tried. What happens is most salespeople convince themselves why they can't do the activity.
Mm-hmm.
If I coach a salesperson, all I have to do is discuss with him how much activity he's going to do this week. As long as he sticks to it, he will be successful within 12 months.
Wow.
Most people give up very quickly on the activity and they find excuses.
Why? They get burnt out from the nose.
They're afraid. Yeah.
It's
Most
rejection.
people-
You get
it's
rejected
Fear of
time and time.
rejection is very, very personal.
Yeah.
It's very personal and it's subconscious. So it's only 8% of the population who can handle it. So either you 8%, 92% of people cannot handle personal rejection. So you either born, some people are just born with a natural comfort level of being rejected where they really don't care what other people think. But those people are very rare. I would say 2-3% of people.
Wow.
The rest of the other 5-6% of people who become successful, it's not because it doesn't matter to them. It hurts them a lot, the personal rejection. But the reason why they want to be successful is stronger than the pain of being rejected.
Right.
Every
So it's
time-
not worth it.
every time-
Correct.
Correct. Every time when a person is struggling with something, let's say somebody wants to quit smoking, okay, or vaping. They have two things. One thing is the enjoyment, the short-term pleasure of vaping, or the addiction, giving into the addiction where you feel you need something and you want to give into it. On the other side, you have the knowledge that smoking is very bad for you and it's going to affect your health in the long run.
Which
Okay.
he can't see so far.
Correct.
He
Now,
cares less.
if you're able to make that being healthy, like for example, my grandfather, Ulav Shulam, used to smoke a lot, still from the war. He was a Holocaust survivor, used to smoke a lot. When he was, let's say, 60, 65, he went to his doctor, his primary care doctor, and his primary care doctor told him, if you want to dance at your grandkids' weddings, you have to stop right now.
And that was a valuable
He
thing
walked
for him.
out and he never took another cigarette. Now, he was addicted, okay? He was smoking for 4 years and he started with good reasons and he had good reasons. He lost his whole family during the war. He had good reasons to smoke. But the idea of not being, after going through so much, not being by his grandkids' weddings was so painful that it overrode. Now, he didn't need patches. He didn't need hypnosis. He didn't need any therapy, nothing. He didn't need gum, okay?
Wow.
He was a very chushavit. He would never chew gum. But I'm saying he didn't need anything because that's stronger. Now, the people who succeed, it's usually, in anything, even in learning, it is because not doing it is more important, okay? Is not
More
doing it is
painful.
more painful than the short-term, overcoming the short-term
Nice.
difficulties. Now, the truth is that, and this is also something important to remember, everybody looks at life and they see, okay, I'm struggling. Why can't I be like this guy? Why can't I be like this guy? But the truth is, when you start looking into this guy and that guy that you want to be, and you sit down with them, you realize that this guy and that guy is struggling. I remember when
Maybe I should make a chavrisa with this guy that I keep looking at.
Correct. I remember when I worked at Guardian and we used to get people's medical records for life insurance. And usually, you go after the rich people to get policies from them because they can afford multi-million-dollar policies. And I would look at the records and I would see this guy's on Xanax, on Prozac. And I'm like, hello, isn't he the guy with the $20 million that everybody wants to have? He's supposed to be the ultimate happiness.
Wow.
Why is he on antidepressant, anti-anxiety? And it's a fact that most rich people are miserable. Most celebrities are sick, miserable. Why? Okay. So now, but everybody is like, okay. So then people say, you know what? I want the money from this guy.
Yeah.
The
That's
family
not
from
gonna
this guy. They say, it says, So some firms say you have to take the whole package. You can't pick and choose. But the truth is, the point I want to get to is the point is that everybody is struggling. There hasn't been a single person since the world got created that was born and died 70, 80, 90
with
years
no
later
struggle.
without serious struggles. Okay. Now, some struggles are more real than others. Some people struggle because in their head they're struggling. A lot of pain is self-inflicting pain because you're thinking you need this,
So
you're
that's
thinking you
not
need
even
this.
Bashet?
Everything is bashit. But we have a choice. We have a choice to decide that we don't want anything. And by doing that, we're just starting to live more comfortably.
Because you
Most
lower the
pain-
expectations.
Correct. Most pain. Now, expectations is natural, meaning we were born and designed to want things. We want to grow. Sometimes people are worried, if I stop wanting things, what's going to be? I'm just going to sit and look at the ceiling. It's not true. The wanting to grow, okay,
Is always
is
there.
natural. You don't have to worry about that. But what we do is we say in a negative way, I want this, but I don't have it. I want this, but I don't have it. I have to go there, but I can't. I have to go there, but I can't. We keep telling ourselves what we don't have,
And that's
and we
what
keep
causes.
focusing constantly on the negative side of things versus the positive side of things. And
Right.
the Baal Shem Tov, Udam Oilech Achar HaMachshava,
Right.
which is what we call now the law of attraction. It's physically proven today that if you focus on positive, you attract positive to yourself. And if you
Wow.
focus on negative, when they teach people to race cars, people are speeding at 100 miles an hour, 150 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour. You have a wall and you have a curve. Okay? If you think about a wall,
You will hit the
you
wall.
will hit the wall before you know it.
Wow.
You don't have a choice because the speed is faster than you're thinking.
Wow.
So how do you do that? How do you race a car at those speeds? The answer is you ignore the wall. You just focus on the curve.
Right.
You ignore the wall. It doesn't exist. If you focus on the curve, you will get there without even realizing that you're getting there
Wow.
because your subconscious brain will go to where you are.
There was another thing that I tried training somebody, and the only way, I think it was a one wheel. There's like a hoverboard, electric hoverboard. I had it, and I gave it away. I broke my finger on it. But the only way to train, if you look down, you're going to keep struggling. But if you look straight, you're going to go straight.
Okay.
I think it has a segue as well. Okay, that was very clear. So what do you do today?
Good question. I help people, which is what I've always done.
You still help 27 years later.
Yeah.
How did you shift from going to special needs kids and went into business consultant?
At some point, I realized that business is a more practical way of helping people. Special needs and learning disabilities, mental health is a very complex world. There's still a lot of research that needs to be done. The research is constantly developing over the last 20 years. A lot of new research has been developed, and there's a tremendous amount of people right now doing a lot of good things. There's a lot of government funding. There's a lot of people doing amazing things. But I felt somehow that in business, it's sometimes a little simpler because the goal is how do we make money.
Right.
So it's more obvious and simple.
Who was your first client?
I don't remember. I do remember that there were 3 local companies in Monroe, an air conditioning company, a mortgage company. And
Why would they think
glass
27
company.
years ago that they need somebody to consult them? Why would they pay for it?
It wasn't as consulting. Wasn't called consulting. It was just, I have a challenge. I have a problem. Can you give me a solution? And I would tell them, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. It wasn't like officially hiring a consultant. That's more a newer trend.
What was one of your good
National
stories with one of the businesses? Something interesting, a big lesson, or maybe the biggest challenge you had with the business?
I would say every client that I worked with over the last 20 years has been a challenge, has been interesting, and most of them have very good stories. Now, I am very confidential, and a lot of my clients will not be happy or comfortable to hear their stories. So I have to be careful. But basically, every person is complex. Every person has their shortcomings, their strengths. Every person tries to run their business to the best of their ability, but everybody is struggling because when you're working with other people, there's all kinds of personalities and all kinds of different things that have to get along.
So you're gonna hit all your fears that you're trying to avoid 24/7. It's gonna come into your face.
Correct.
Wow.
I'll tell you one interesting story that I remember because it was very interesting. A guy reached out to me that he wants to come down with his team to discuss how they work together, how they can improve. And I said, okay. We scheduled a time, a 3-hour meeting to discuss everything that's going on. The guy walks in with like 5 people with him. They sit around the table. The owner sits next to me. And he says, I want to tell you, before we start, I want to tell you that you're not as good of a consultant as you think you are.
That's how he started?
That's how he started the meeting.
That's not a good starting point.
Definitely not. And I was like, okay. Now, my nature is that I analyze people. So to me, it's a game, meaning I don't get scared from difficult people. To me, it's like I have to figure out now why he said it and how am I going to deal with it. So it becomes exciting for me actually to work with this because there's a reason why people do things or people say things. So we started, okay, I ignored it and I said, you know what? Maybe I will agree with you that I'm not so good, but people come to me and they pay me, so you're here as well. Let's just work together. And we started working. And what happened is after an hour into the meeting, his team started telling me how bad he is as an owner, okay? How dysfunctional the company is, that they don't have open communication, they don't feel they're treated well. And this went on for a very, very long time.
Wow.
Now, after the meeting, I asked the owner and I said, why did you start the meeting with that? I knew the answer, but I wanted him to say it because that's part of working together is I do have open communication with my clients. And he told me, I knew where the meeting is going. I wanted you to know that you're not as good as you think you are either, so we're both in the same position. Okay? Now, the point is, everybody has these struggles. And, it's important for people to remember that people are always questioning, am I good or not good? And I tell them, in a din Torah, in court, somebody has to be right, somebody has to be wrong. In my office, there's a sign that says, in order for me to be right, somebody else doesn't have to be wrong. There are people that always feel, like Trump, for example, feels that life is a game. There can only be one winner, and it has to be me.
Mm-hmm.
So automatically, everybody is an enemy because somebody has to lose, okay? One of the 7 habits, win-win or no deal.
Yeah.
Which means that working together with other people, everybody's weaknesses, everybody's strengths, doesn't have to be bad. People are always questioning, am I doing good? Am I doing bad? The truth is, you're doing amazing, okay? You started a business, you're building a business, you're running a business. You're probably in the top 3% of the world. If you look at the world general, there's 7 billion people in the world, okay? Most of them don't even have electricity and running water. So the fact that you're running a business, you have employees, you're putting bread on the table, you have a house, you have a family, you're automatically on the top.
Even though to the business owner, most of the time it looks like a mess.
Correct. But the only reason why it looks like a mess is, again, because of expectations. But the reality is that everybody is struggling. I have clients that do over $100 million a year, that have over 1,000 employees, and I'm telling you, they're all struggling. I don't have a single client that's not struggling.
Is it now more than before?
Some people are struggling because they're growing fast and they have to deal with a lot of new issues. They're getting lawsuits. They never got lawsuits. They have too many employees now. It's out of control. They can't even manage their own employees. People are coming and going and they feel like, they're going at a speed that they can't manage, which is as bad as going down. But there's nobody that's sitting in a perfectly run business. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is struggling. But everybody's looking on the outside saying, why can't my business be better? Now, so at the Penguin Group, for example, in my company, one of the things that we focus on, the main thing we focus on.
That's the official name of your company?
The Penguin Group.
How long is this name existing?
7 years.
Who gave this name?
I gave it.
It has a story.
It took
You
me,
don't pick a penguin like that.
I would say it took me less than 10 minutes.
Really?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I started with my column in the Ami, which was called Ask Maurice. People were sending in questions and I would answer.
About business?
So I continued with that name, Ask Maurice. It's a good business name. Business is myself, so why myself and secretary? Why do I need a fancy name?
Mm-hmm.
Then I hired a partner, Nathaniel Muller.
There's such a thing as hiring a partner.
No, it's not hiring a partner. I felt that I need somebody to work with me because my strength is not helping people with details and structure and operations, but my clients needed it. So I pushed myself to do it. I pushed myself to help my clients hire people, but it's not my strength, or I don't have the time for it. So I did open up a recruiting team to help me hire people for my clients. And I did take in a partner. We started off by me giving him work, but I liked him so much and we worked together so well that I figured, it's pretty simple to work together. So we decided to become partners. And we, Baruch Hashem, are successful partners.
How many years?
Ever since. 7 years.
Nice. So he needed a name.
So he started calling himself Ask Nathaniel.
Oh, so there's Ask
Okay.
Maurice, Ask
Ask Maurice,
Nathaniel.
Ask
Okay.
Nathaniel. So then we did a grand opening for an office in Monsey. And one of the staff was saying, we have the recruiting company was operating under a different name. So the staff was saying, it's a good opportunity. We're doing a grand opening. We can't do a grand opening for an office with 3 names.
Right.
Why don't you just come up with one name that everybody could work with? I said, okay. I took a walk and I just decided the Penguin Group. Now,
Why?
No answer.
Okay.
I just like the name. Now, the truth is that I can give you a few good reasons. The penguins work together in teams.
Ah.
You will never see a single penguin.
Oh, nice.
They always work together in teams. They never fight. At least that's my belief.
Okay.
Any argument, they dive into the water, they take a swim, they come out, and they start from fresh.
I like it. Okay.
So,
In Israel, the Frum people are called penguins because of their black and white outfit.
okay. Now, the good thing about the Penguin Group is that there's only one other company in the world called the Penguin Group, which is the biggest book publishing company.
Okay, so it's a good.
So it's pretty easy to find us on Google. It's pretty easy to remember, and also penguin is a very friendly animal.
It
so
is.
when you say to people when you say penguin, people smile,
Right.
and it's like it's heimish, it's friendly, it's something that you want to cuddle with. It's not something that you feel like afraid of. It's not a predator. It's not like it's more
It's a
on
good
the
enough.
friendly side.
It's a good enough reason. The mission of the Penguin Group is to open companies, launch companies, or launch business entrepreneurs, or push entrepreneurs. What's the goal?
The goal of the Penguin Group is to help companies scale. Technically, every company that starts is usually heimish, okay, at least in our circles, and that's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. You start a company by one person or 2 people sitting in a room, doing whatever it takes to get a company off the ground, and that's the way it should be. At some point, as the company starts growing, it starts becoming necessary to have systems and processes in place. Now, the difference between processes and systems is a process is how you do something. A system is where you keep track of the process. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody has a brokerage company. They sell insurance. Okay, so they start off one person with a secretary. They're taking calls. Let's say they have a Google sheet, they have an Excel sheet, whatever they have. They're tracking the clients. They know exactly where each client is up to. The business starts growing. Before you know it, Baruch Hashem, 2 years later, Siyata D'Shmaya, they have 10 employees. Okay? Now you have 10 people taking phone calls. You can't have 10 people take phone calls, put them into a Google Sheet.
It's a mess.
It starts getting very messy. Okay?
So it's called a CRM, no?
There's different softwares. Okay?
Right.
There's a CRM is specifically for sales, managing your leads and sales.
Okay.
Then there's project management, which is where do you manage an actual project from beginning to end.
Who does what?
Okay? Yeah, if you want to manage a production,
Yeah.
you're not managing.
have a lot of that,
You're not
yeah.
managing a production in a CRM.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Then there is ERPs, which is more for inventory management. There's a lot of softwares. Okay, a lot
Okay.
of different things. But what's important is that everybody needs a business consists of 3 main categories. Okay, there is processes, systems, and people.
Okay.
So let's say a process. Let's say a company has an insurance company. So a process would mean somebody calls in. What do you do first? What do you do second? One of the companies that I'm involved in just has a situation where the insurance policy on the van of the company lapsed.
Meaning?
It
Oh, the
took
insurance
the
lapse.
insurance
Yeah, yeah,
lapsed,
yeah.
and by Ashgucha Prutius, the driver, somebody crashed into him the day after it lapsed.
No way.
Yeah. But it wasn't his fault, it was the other person's fault. So I hopefully nothing will happen. But I reached out to the insurance company.
You're saying hopefully, meaning it's one of your companies.
Correct.
And you care so much for the company that you care about their crash on their van?
I do.
So you become like a
I do, yeah,
personally
that's
invested in the company?
That's my nature.
How many companies like this do you have?
A lot.
And you know each one their van, where they're up
No,
to?
I would know if the person mentions it to me or calls me up to ask me what to do about it.
You mentioned a very fascinating line before we started about 80% of the consultant being his personal struggles and only 20% is actual business.
Correct.
It comes together with the business owner being in his own way of growth. So it is a life coach, technically.
Everything is life coaching because everything is helping a person go from point A to point B. If you're talking about the business, you want to help the business go from point A to point B. But like we just discussed, a business consists of these three things: processes, systems, and software. So if I'm talking to a business owner about growing his business, we're talking about these things. How do we implement processes? Now, the business owner needs to have an efficient way of dealing with his employees, let's say the business owner doesn't get along with his people. That by itself will make the company dysfunctional.
And most of the time, it's personal struggles that he has with his past. It has nothing to do with the people.
Correct.
Did you have
Correct. But
full meltdowns in your office? You don't have to give me names. It's a yes or a no question.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a normal thing for a business owner to melt down and break down and
Correct.
hit a wall, which is a struggle that he has.
Let's take a simple example of letting go of an employee.
Okay.
You have an employee you're working with, and it's just not working out. For whatever reason, there's all kinds of reasons why employees are not working out. The person is just not a good fit for the job. Some business owners will sit with that person forever because they can't get themselves to let go of
They
the
don't have
person.
the guts.
They don't have the guts. But the truth is, every person will tell you, das teure, das balabayas, professional guidance is the purpose of a business is to make a profit. A business cannot be with bad employees. And it's more than that is the person himself, if he's in the wrong position, he's struggling. He goes home every night feeling miserable.
Right.
And when you let go of the person, sometimes you will meet them 6 months later and they'll tell you they have an amazing job and you feel so bad. Why didn't I let them go earlier?
Right.
And the answer is that you should, because Hashem runs the world. You know, when we used to do recruiting, we would interview 20 people in a day, and 19 of the 20 we would mark as unqualified for anything because we didn't feel that these people are qualified for any of the positions that we have. Why? For different reasons. The recruiters did not feel. And it affected them because they felt like these people need bread on the table. And some people would tell them straight out, I don't have money for Shabbos. Can you get me a job? And it would be hard for them. Now, slowly, I started training the team that Hashem runs the world. He provides for everybody bread. You see sometimes people being employed and you can't understand how in the world did somebody hire that person, but they did.
Wow.
And sometimes he's even doing an amazing job. And the same thing is with jobs. So we would only help, let's say, 1 out of 20, but Hashem is helping the other 19. It's one of the things that people need to keep realizing is, yes, you do have an obligation to help other people, but you're not running the world.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take care of yourself. The more you take care of yourself, the more you end up helping other people.
Wow.
Because the more you take care of yourself, the more you build up yourself. The more you build up yourself, the more other people are now available and able to learn from you. If you're a mess because you're running around all day helping everybody, not having a normal family life, not having a normal business, not having money, It's very little you can do to help. If you're successful and now you're going and talking to people and saying, okay, here is what you can do to be successful. I can lend you money. I can help you open a business. You have a lot more capabilities of helping. So you want to always focus on yourself and remember that Hashem runs the world. You don't have to take care of everything. You just have to take care of yourself.
Why did you leave the recruiting company? Why is it closed?
I closed it last year, Pesach, actually. It became very difficult. First of all, when I started 6 years ago, there were only 2 recruiting companies in the Heimische market, and I felt that it's not enough for what I needed for my clients. So my son got married at the time, so I took him in as the first employee, and we built a very nice team. At this point, there's over 100 Heimische recruiters.
What?
Yeah, I'm on a group with over 100 recruiters supporting each other. Yeah.
So before I said there's half Klal Yisrael consulting, half Klal Yisrael, I think now there's half of it is recruiters. What is going on?
Recruiting became a very big thing because it's pretty easy to get into. You don't need anything. You just start matching people.
Uh-huh.
So it became a very competitive market. The other thing is because the economy is suffering for the last year.
So people are looking for jobs, so they need recruiters.
Yeah, but most companies don't want to hire now.
Mm-hmm.
So it became a field where if you want to hire, you could hire easily. I did end up getting involved in a company called Purple Stairs, which is the first Heimische platform where people can go and say that they're looking to hire, and people can post that they're looking to be hired. We did a very interesting twist. Is one of the challenges of successful people looking for a job is that they don't want to disclose that they're looking because they're still working.
Right.
So we give you, Purple Stairs gives you the ability to hide your information.
So Purple Stairs is a website?
It's a website.
It
Yeah.
still exists?
Yeah, it's growing every day.
How long is it going for?
I would say 6 months.
So that's another company you helped launch?
One of the companies I launched in the last 12 months.
How many companies did you do in the last few months?
Don't know. I don't keep track.
When did you leave? You're still with them?
I am still with all the companies that I help. Not all, I shouldn't say
What
all.
happens? You find a Yingerman and Sheil, you say, okay, I'm going to help you launch a company, or they find you?
No, so there's all kinds of scenarios. There's a company, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. There's a company called the Maroon Dot.
The Maroon Dot?
Yeah.
What is that? It sounds like maroon cookies.
No, it's the Maroon Dot. It's also a name that I gave just because it's unique and it's you'll remember it. But it's basically an idea that I had about corporate gifting. I had a guy that came to me with a business idea, and he asked, a lot of people come to me with ideas asking me, do you think this is a good idea? And
sometimes you would help them launch it.
I try to be very brutally honest, because what's the point of telling a person, yeah, it's amazing, when it's not?
Right.
So I told him that I don't see his idea going anywhere. So he told me, but I'm looking for something. I said, you know what? There's enough ideas. An idea is not worth more than $1. Here are 6 ideas that I think are worthwhile doing because they have potential. I'll give them to you for free.
You give out ideas for free?
Yeah. But
Can I have some?
You have to pay for a consultation session.
Okay.
But if you pay for a consultation session, and if I have an idea, I'll give them to you.
Nice.
Because, like I said, the difficult part is execution.
Right.
A lot of people come to me and they say, I have an amazing idea. You have to sign this document. You're not going to share. And I tell them, I can sign whatever you want, but an idea is basically not worth anything. The most difficult part is there's thousands of ideas that went nowhere.
Right.
There are even companies, by the way, that will email you every week ideas. Yeah.
Really?
Don't exist. Yeah.
So it's the consistency.
It's the execution that is brutal.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes, so this guy came to me, and I gave him 6 ideas. One of the ideas was launching a unique corporate gifting company in the Heimische market. And he picked that. I helped him launch the company for 3-4 months. I found him the vendors. I figured out with him all the costs and the marketing and everything. Then I helped him find an investor, and I moved out. And I have no connection to the company right now, except that we're friends.
When do you decide to move out of a company?
It's not I decide. It's usually the client that decides.
The client says, okay, I had enough of you.
No, it depends.
I don't
People-
want to pay you anymore. How does it
People
work?
are independent. I don't like to put people into contracts.